how can you use VSTACK to combine unbound ranges? Unbound ranges are like this, where it's A3 through B and D3 through E, where I don't specify an ending row. Now, in the user's sheet that they provided, they want to combine all of region 1 and all of region 2 into something that looks like this for all regions. Let's take a look how this was solved. So here's my copy of the user's sheet that they provided when they ask about this. They simply have region 1, region 2, and all regions. This is what they want to create. Is this all regions? Oops. Is this all regions? Where it has all of the amounts and all of the transaction IDs. Okay? Now, if you have a bound range, which is to say you know there won't be new elements at the bottom, you can simply do, scroll over, VSTACK, let's do A3 through B16, and then D3 through E25. And that will provide exactly what we're shown here in all regions. However, it will never add new data. It will always only bring whatever is in those ranges. So if I add a new, let's say I have amount 3000, and over here 1414 as the transaction ID, that doesn't appear. That should be right here. Okay? So they wanted to use unbound ranges so that it would have that new data. However, as soon as they did that, it shows a reference error saying result was not automatically expanded. Please insert more rows. However, let's scroll down and see what's going on. It is always adding new rows until it actually is going to max out here in just a minute. Because what we have is, let's say you want 50 items from A through B and 50 items from D through E, but that's all of them. And your sheet is only 50 rows long. Well, if you try to stack 50 things on top of 50 things and you only have space for 50 things, it's going to add more rows. And it's going to say, hey, I need another 50 rows. And it adds those 50 rows. But as soon as it adds those 50 rows, now it needs to put 100 things on top of 100 things. And it just keeps going like that. So it is impossible for it to work this way. Let's delete that. And delete all of these extra rows. Yep, 50,500 is the max it's showing here. So delete those rows. Now I'm going to use the query function to get around this. So query, the data I'm going to pass in is actually going to be that full unbound VSTACK, A3 through B, D3 through E. However, here in my select statement, I'm going to say select all, where column 1 is not null. So this says only return the rows where there is something in the amount. And now it does work. I still have my unbound ranges, and it is providing the new data. And it'll do this on both as well. So if I add new data here, just trying to use something simple to look at, 2000, 1000. Great. So that is appearing how we want it to. There's only one extra piece I want to add here to make this fully functional. Let's say that I have a transaction ID, but I don't have an amount attached to that yet, and I still want to log it. Actually hide these so we can see the formula a little bit better, the formula output. All right, so if I come over here and say, well, I have a transaction 5151, but I don't know the amount yet. That should be right here, but it's not, because we're saying only return things where the first column, that is A and D, is not null. All right, and obviously A18 here is null, so it's not returning this. So I'm going to add an OR statement here, or call 2 is not null. Now it's going to return all of them where there is a blank in either, but not a blank in both. If we're returning where there's a blank in both, then we would hit the reference error again. But in this case, it is returning this one, even though we have a transaction ID in the second column, but nothing in the first column. So the basic way to use the query function to get around a unlimited range, an unbound range, is to select only where one of the columns is not null. And I would normally use here the column that you expect not to be null. So usually I don't need to do this OR statement. I would just say where call2 is not null, because that's the transaction ID. That's the one most likely to always be filled, and that just works great like that. So use the query function to make unbound ranges that are pushing too far constrained to a certain amount.